I'd like to welcome everyone here today to the Bob Bovee Neuroscience Institute for our special presentation with Jimmy Choi. My name is Daniel Savitt. I specialize in movement disorders here at Honor Health and strive to diagnose and provide individualized treatment for patients with movement disorders such as Parkinson's disease, essential tremor, and dystonia, among others. I first want to say a few words about this extraordinary building we're in. The Bob Bovee Neuroscience Institute here at Honor Health is the state's newest multidisciplinary destination for comprehensive and coordinated neurologic care, support services, and research. This state-of-the-art, five-story, approximately 120,000 square foot building is now home to top neurosurgeons, neurologists, neuroradiologists, and physical medicine and rehabilitation providers, as well as research trials and physical, occupational, and speech therapists, all of whom help to contribute and provide a collaborative, team-oriented approach to disorders of the brain, spine, and nervous system. A hallmark of the Institute is its dedication to a comprehensive team-oriented approach to patient care. Our growing Honor Health neurology practice includes several general neurologists, as well as subspecialists such as myself, who have gained extra training and expertise in the management of neuromuscular diseases such as ALS, epilepsy, headaches, multiple sclerosis, and movement disorders. Nurse navigators within the Institute are available to help provide guidance and support to patients based on their specific diagnosis. Our multidisciplinary clinics provide an excellent opportunity for patients to work with a variety of specialists all in one visit, such as meeting with the treating neurologist, dietitian, and physical, speech, and occupational therapists. Our multidisciplinary clinics are the epitome of the collaborative nature of the Institute, in which all the participating providers have a chance to have roundtable discussions regarding each patient to establish effective care plans. Wellness programs are available to patients to help round out our holistic approach to patient care, with disease-specific focus on nutrition and physical fitness, an especially important aspect to the care of people with these sorts of disorders, especially Parkinson's disease. Which leads me to introduce our guest speaker for today, Jimmy Choi. Without divulging too much of Jimmy's inspirational background, which I have a feeling he'll share with us today, he was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's disease in 2003 at the age of 27. Over time, Jimmy began to embrace a very active lifestyle, which he continues to this day. Not only running in his first marathon close to 10 years after his initial diagnosis, but also competing multiple times on NBC's American Ninja Warrior. And this doesn't even scratch the surface of his athletic accomplishments. Just as, if not more inspiring than his achievements as an endurance athlete, is Jimmy's work as a motivational speaker and Parkinson's disease advocate and fundraiser, having raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in his collaborative efforts with the Michael J. Fox Foundation. So without further ado, please welcome Mr. Jimmy Choi.
Yeah. Thank you. Just like everything in the 70s, I was made in Taiwan. My family immigrated to the United States when I was 10 years old. We moved to Bolingbrook, Illinois. I was very active in high school. I played multiple sports. I played baseball, I wrestled, and I was captain of the football team. I met Shiro in high school, and we got married in the year 2000. We have two kids, Mason and Karina. Life for us was just beginning. I mean, we had very ambitious career goals. I was very active. I played a lot of golf. Really, we were just getting into the groove of being adults. And then I was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's at the age of 27. Four times what is 28?
7.
That's right. There you go. Nice. Mason, his smile can brighten up any room. Now, Karina, she's a chip off the old block. She loves obstacle course racing, And for fun, we watch American Ninja Warrior. Karina really got into the show, and every time the show comes on, she would say, Dad, you should really try out. You should try to get on the show. I applied to make Karina happy. American Ninja Warrior actually called me, and they told me, hey, guess what? You've been selected to be a participant.
Jimmy Choi. He's a 41-year-old rookie who's also back.
Being on American Ninja Warrior is the most terrifying thing I've ever done. But it proved that I can follow my dreams and nothing can stop me.
Jimmy's story is an extreme example of the way the community is galvanized. Literally everyone can't do what he did. I can't do it. But one reasonable answer to it is to get engaged in the community, get engaged in the fight, get engaged in research, get engaged in clinical trials. It's part of a call to involvement, and involvement has its own rewards.
I've learned there are positives and negatives to Parkinson's. People have said to me all the time, hey Jimmy, you ran a marathon in 3 hours and 40 minutes. Can you imagine how fast you'd be without Parkinson's? And I said, I don't think I'd be running a marathon if I didn't have Parkinson's.
Jimmy Choi. He's running tonight for Team Fox. There's his wife and daughter, Karina, who got Jimmy to come out for this. You can see the trimmers in those hands. There he goes. Come on, Jimmy Choi. Woo! Nice grab.
Everybody, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you, Dr. Savitt, for that introduction, and I want to thank Honor Health Foundation for the opportunity for me to share my story with you guys today. It is always an honor and a privilege for me to do that. And just wanted to also a quick shout out to Dr. Levine, who is recovering at home after surgery. If you're seeing this online, Dr. Levine, get well soon, get well quick, and we'll see you back and doing important work with us. But, oh my gosh, guys, can you believe it? We're in person, right? We're in person. What a crazy 2.5, 3 years it's been. You know, I've been doing a lot of these talks online since COVID-19 hit. And I've gotten so used to just looking at a computer screen or looking at a camera. And you know what? This morning, when I was getting ready to come down to the center, I had to check to make sure I had my pants on, because a lot of times we were just sitting around and, you know, we didn't have our pants on, right? You know, I feel like I forgot how to speak in front of people. So, you know, I was really nervous coming up here. And then when I get nervous, I always ask my wife, like, you know, how's this sound? How is this doing? She goes, look, just relax, right? Don't try to be funny, okay? Don't try to sound too smart. Just go up there and be yourself. You're gonna be just fine. But you know what? I'm also a little bit nervous because I do have the post-lunch group. So I'll try not to put you guys to sleep. Now, once again, guys, my name is Jimmy Choi, and I was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's almost 20 years ago now. Now, before I go on any further, I'm gonna show me a hand, everybody in this room who has been diagnosed with Parkinson's. Now, keep those hands up. How many of you have been diagnosed for more than 10 years? Leave your hands up. How many of you have been diagnosed for more than 15 years? Leave those hands up. 18 years? 20 years? Okay, you see we have one hand left, and she's looking great, by the way. A great. Now, the reason I bring that up is because usually when I stand up in a room full of people with, and patients with Parkinson's, is that I'm usually one of the younger people in the room. But as you can see, 20 years living with this disease actually puts me in the senior of this room. Okay? And I just want to make sure everybody understands that, because I've learned a lot from living with this disease, and hopefully you guys can learn something from what I have to say today. And certainly, I'm always learning from everybody that I get to meet. So thank you guys for that. So the first question that I get is always, how did you get diagnosed with Parkinson's at such a young age? Well, it was actually a routine life insurance physical that got the ball rolling. Now remember, I just gotten married. My parents and my dad always says, Jimmy, when you get married and you're ready to start a family, you need to buy life insurance. So I did. And when they sent the nurse out to do my life insurance physical, she started noticing things about me, the way that I move, and the way that I was, just the things that I was in between our interaction. And she stops me after she's taken my blood and after she's ruled out drugs and alcohol, right? So she stops me and she says, look, the reason why I'm asking you about all these movement questions and all these things, she had me stand up and walk the room back and forth. She goes, she never gave me a diagnosis, by the way, because she can't. But she says, the reason I'm asking you this is because by night, and my side job is to do insurance physicals. But my regular job, I'm a nurse in a neurology office. And I'm seeing things about you that's very, very familiar to me. So she gave me a list of things to talk to my general practitioner about. And that's what got the ball rolling. So I was only 27 years old at the time. So like I said, I was newly married. And I thought I knew it all, right? I was going to play golf. I was going to, travel the world, start a family, have kids, right? It's going to be my wife, my 2 kids. Now, this nurse gave me reasons to really wonder about what's really going on, because everything that I was feeling can be explained away with an everyday life of a 27-year-old, right? I was in the tech industry, so there's a lot of stress. Especially this is late, in the mid-90s, we're talking about the birth of the internet, right? So there's a lot of pressure. So these twitches and these little shakiness and things I'm feeling, I thought was just stress. Now, I did play a lot of golf, and sometimes I would carry my 40-pound bags and walk 36 holes in a day. So I'm gonna feel a little stiff, I'm gonna feel a little sore, right? Move a little bit slow the next day. I thought that was all normal. But after weeks and weeks and weeks of seeing specialists and doing tests that I can only describe as sobriety-like, right? I found myself sitting in disbelief at my neurologist's office when I was told, Jimmy, you have Parkinson's. Now, it was actually a clinical diagnosis, right? My doctor's suspicions were supported by a positive reaction to medication, carbidopa, levodopa. And then a few years later, it was confirmed with 2 separate DAT scans, 6 months apart, that did show changes in my dopamine levels in the brains. Now, up to this point, I was so sure that there was nothing wrong with me. I didn't even tell my wife when I was diagnosed. I didn't tell her for another 3 months. And only when I decided that I wanted to take medication so that I can have the feeling of normalcy, then I told her that I was diagnosed. Now, medication allowed me to live life normal, as usual, for now, back then. It also allowed me to ignore my progression. And unfortunately, that's what I did. I did nothing. I didn't even open that pamphlet that I was given when I was diagnosed. I thought, out of sight, out of mind, right? And I did that for my first 8 years of my diagnosis. Absolutely nothing. Just took the pill and didn't even go, I went back when I needed refills, and I went back for but it was very short because I didn't share any information. I just wanted to get out there as quickly as I could. My symptoms began to progress. One by one, they became harder and harder to hide. Now, with each symptom, it was like an extra weight, right? An extra burden that I was carrying, just trying to lead a normal life. In fact, I brought them here with me today, and I want to show you guys. This could go really well, or this could go really badly, but
Here we go. All right, let's see what do we have here in my magical bag of stuff. Let's see, each one of these weights that I'm about to pull out of these bags represents a symptom that I was dealing with at the time. And these are all pretty common to a lot of you in this room. Dystonia was a symptom I was dealing with. Rigidity, having a hard time moving my muscles around. I was having gait issues. Now, if you guys are wondering, we're starting at 8 pounds each, and as the colors change, they go up, and these go all the way up to 15 pounds. So gait issues, I was having issues walking around and really trying to walk in a straight line or really just find my balance. Of course, tremors. What else do we have in here? We've got postural problems, okay? Can you imagine if I was Santa Claus and I'm pulling these things out of the bag for kids? We've got bradykinesia, right? That slowness of movement that I experience. Now we're getting to some heavy stuff here. This one's my favorite because it's not really even a symptom of Parkinson's. This is a side effect of the medication that we take, okay? Dyskinesia, right? Let's see, what else do we have in here? We've got more. We've got insomnia. What else? Oh, this is a really crappy one, guys. She's already ahead of me. Constipation, that's right. And then, just for one more, we have cognitive issues. So as you can see, carrying all this burden around, everything that I was trying to hide from everybody else became harder and harder to hide, okay? Now, I might think I'm doing a good job at hiding it, but anybody carrying any type of burden, okay? Doesn't matter if it's Parkinson's, it could be MS, or it could be dementia, it could be anything. Whoever's carrying out, people around you are gonna notice, right? I'm gonna leave these here for a second. So to this point in my life, I was about 35 years old, right? I was carrying all this extra burden. I was unable to hide my tremors, unable to concentrate at work from stiffness, cramps, and brain fog, right? I'm sure many of us have experienced that. But worst of all, I was unable to interact with my kids and my family, right? My time with them are very short. I get tired really easily. So it's gotten to the point now where I became so inactive and I was losing my balance a lot, and I was actually using a cane to walk, and I actually weighed 240 pounds because of how little activity that I was doing, okay? I was yelling and snapping at my family for no good reason, right? When I yelled, I can hear myself yelling and then have these out-of-body experiences where I can almost like I'm floating outside and I'm seeing myself screaming at my 2-year-old little girl. Off the top of my lungs, I'm screaming at her. And for what? Just spill some milk or some juice, okay? Now that wasn't bad enough. In March of 2010, I hit rock bottom. I was walking down the stairs and carrying my then 10-month-old son, and I suddenly lost my balance, and the two of us tumbled down an entire flight of stairs. Now, thankfully, I was able to keep Mason above my body the entire way down, and he was unhurt. And I took the brunt of the fall down the stairs. I was okay physically, but mentally, I was never gonna be the same, right? When I hit the bottom, I looked up and I saw my wife and my daughter who witnessed that fall, and the look on their face of horror. I knew right then that something had to change. Now, I couldn't change the fact that I had Parkinson's, but I could change the way that I was living with it, okay? So I didn't know what I was gonna do, okay? I knew I wasn't smart enough to find a cure myself. I certainly didn't have the funds to fund for a cure. So I did the next best thing. I started educating myself. I started signing up for clinical trials and finally learning this thing called Parkinson's after 8 years. The more I learned, the more in control I felt. There was an onslaught of information coming in, right? And they all had some things in common. And number one, it was exercise, exercise, exercise. Okay? Today, we know that high-intensity exercise is the only treatment proven to slow progression of Parkinson's. The second thing that I learned is that I am not alone in this. I don't have to do this all on my own. My friends and family were apprehensive because I was apprehensive. Talking about it openly made it less scary with my friends and family. Talking to other people who are like me, who are going through the similar experiences and sharing information. And they've already started figuring out how to live better despite living with Parkinson's. And all I had to do was reach out and learn from what they've learned. So I started to do all this, with this information, I started to do more and more exercise on my own. It was actually during a clinical trial for a physical therapy session that made me feel, when I got home, I said, you know what, I feel a little better. This is a multi-week trial, and every time I got home, I would feel a little bit better. So then I decided, you know what, maybe I should start incorporating more exercise on my own at home. So I started to walk around the block using my cane, and then when I felt comfortable, I would leave my cane at home and see how far I can get. And then I started walking without my cane. I would make it one time around the block, and then the next day I try to go 2 times, 3 times, trying to get as far as I can. And then next thing you know, I was walking, and then I was starting to jog a little bit. And then after that, I started to run a little bit. I think you guys will see where this is going. Now, one day on a business trip, I got on the airplane, and I sat down, and right there in my seat back pocket was a magazine. It was a Runner's World magazine. And it was there, so I picked it up, and I looked at it, and I flipped it open to a page where it was featuring a gentleman who was running his first marathon, and he has Parkinson's disease. And I was so inspired by that I decided I was going to try to do a little bit more running and try to carry that on as long as far as I can. So by April of 2012, I ran my first 5K. I was super excited. But when I reached my goal, I didn't stop. I pushed my goal out, and I wanted to see if I can do more. So by June, I did my first 10K of the same year, 2012. By September, I ran my first half marathon. And as soon as I crossed that half marathon finish line, I knew that I was going to take it to the next level, which was to run a marathon. Now, I didn't know at the time, because I was still new to running, that a marathon could sell out. I mean, I thought it was just people running, right? But how crazy is this? 45,000 people would actually pay money to run 26 miles, right? So I wanted to get in on the Chicago Marathon 2012, and it was a month away. It was completely sold out, and there was no way in until somebody told me, hey, you can try charity bibs. And of course, I wanted to look for a charity that's going to support Parkinson's research, Parkinson's programs. And that's when I found the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And then, you know what? Everybody is telling me that even bibs for charities are being, are limited, or they're sold out. So I decided, I'm just going to call and see and check it out. So I called, and the Fox Foundation told me that, hey, Jimmy, we've got 1 bib left. And to this day, I've always felt that 1 bib was there for a reason, and it was there for me. Now, I accepted the bib. And in exchange, I committed to raise $2,000 for the foundation. Okay? I've never had to raise money before. So what was I going to do? What would you guys do if you guys had to raise money? You guys would go to your friends and family, right? And finally, so really for the first time, I had to open up and start telling my story. So, I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to set up a scene for you guys. And a lot of you are probably very familiar with this, okay? It's when you go to gatherings with your friends and family, right? You show up. Nobody wants to say it, but oh goodness, here comes Jimmy, right? Everybody knows something is wrong, but because I never talked about it before, nobody wanted to talk about it. So you stand up and you're seeing your cousin or your uncle or your aunt, and you go, hey, how's it going? And you're just sitting there nodding, right? Oh, I'm fine, I'm good. And you stare at each other and nod for like 5 seconds, and that creates that awkwardness, right? And then what happens? Nothing is said, because they don't know whether or not you want to talk about what's going on. I don't know if they want to hear it, so we just turn our separate ways and go our separate ways. As you guys can see, that over time, right, people living with Parkinson's, this type of interaction can discourage further interaction with other people. And over time, nobody wants to do this awkward dance, right? So unfortunately, what results in that is usually more isolation for the person with Parkinson's, because nobody wants to have that discussion. So I feel like an outsider, right? Always sitting on the side. Everyone else is Batman and I'm trying to be somebody else, right? But by being in the conversation, by being more open and sharing my story with them, I can feel included in my own personal circles. And that's important. That first step is very important. So that's what I did. It changed my approach. For the first time, I started to share my experience. And I shared, in order for me to be successful, right, I have to tell my story. What am I doing to make myself better? What am I doing to help others? I'm helping myself by exercising. Okay, it helps me manage my off periods. It helps me better manage the off periods, and also helps me manage the amount of medication and how the medication is used in my system. I'm sleeping better. I'm building muscle memory that has improved my balance and my gait. I'm becoming a better version of myself. And simply just by opening up, right, I was able to raise $5,000 in 1 month's time for that race. Right? I thought that was pretty good. It's not bad, right? But let's think about this for a second. In 1 month's time, from the time I decided to run the marathon and accepted the bib to the marathon itself, in 1 month's time, I raised $5,000 for research. Okay? I've opened my life and my story to my friends and my family, so we no longer do this awkward dance. And now at parties and gatherings, it's a mutual respect, mutual discussion. I'm being included in activities again. Okay? In that 1 month's time, I've also met people who are like me, living with a disease, and we're sharing information, and we're helping each other out, becoming a support group to each other, okay? In that 1 month's time, guys, I did more good for myself, for the community, than I did in my first 8 years combined, right? And that became my daily thought. What am I going to do today that's going to make this better? If it's just one more step or one more rep in the gym, that's something more today that I could do that's more than yesterday. Now, since 2012, these one mores have led to some pretty amazing accomplishments. And this next part is going to sound like I'm showing off a little bit, and I am, but I just wanted to preface that with not really, but I am. So I continued to push my limits until I became unstoppable. Now, between 2012 and 2015, I was unstoppable when I ran over 5,500 miles in that time. And I also took part in a 50-mile ultra marathon challenge. And what the great thing about that was, remember those people that I met along the way with living with Parkinson's? There were 5 other people with Parkinson's that participated in that race with me. It was amazing. In 2016, I was unstoppable as I continued to run. And also, I started to do more different activities, like cycling. I became the first person with Parkinson's on record to complete a 100-mile bike ride in under 5 minutes. I'm sorry, 5 minutes, it's a long time. That's like a rocket speed, in under 5 hours. So just think about that, right? It's sitting on the bike, holding 20 mile per hour average for 5 hours on a bike. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Now, in 2017, I was unstoppable when I competed for the first time on American Ninja Warrior. In 2018, I was unstoppable when I returned to American Ninja Warrior, and I also finished 4th in my age group at the Spartan World Championships, which, for those of you unfamiliar with Spartan, is the obstacle course racing over mud and terrain and mountains and all the other good stuff, for 13 miles in the ski hills of Lake Tahoe. In 2019, I was unstoppable when I returned to American Ninja Warrior for the 3rd time. And then I also completed the Chicago Marathon, my 16th marathon at the time, while doing 351 burpees along the way. Yeah, it's kind of... For those of you who don't know what a burpee is, I'm going to get into that in a little bit. Now, in 2020, even with COVID, I was unstoppable, competing my 4th year on American Ninja Warrior. And during that time, I also broke 2 fitness world records. One for the number of chest-to-ground, hand-release burpees, and then another one is for a lateral plyometric push-up, which is photoed here, breaking that world record attempt, accomplishing 40 reps of plyometric push-ups in 1 minute. Now today, I am unstoppable. And this year, I competed on my last and final time on American Ninja Warrior. I can't tell you guys what happened yet because it has yet to be aired. But just so you guys tune in on NBC in June, you guys might be able to see some pretty cool things. Mainly because my daughter also competed on it with me, and that's a really, really special moment for me. Now, all in all, guys, these one mores have added up to, I'm just going to total it up for you, 5 times an American Ninja Warrior, 1 burpee world record, 1 push-up world record, 1 ultra marathon, 16 marathons, 105 half marathons, and countless 5Ks, 10Ks, triathlons, bike rides, etc. Now, all these physical accomplishments were great, but I tell you what, none of them compares to the fact that since 2012, my wife and I have helped raise more than $700,000 now for Parkinson's research. Yeah, so that's a far cry from the cane-wielding 240-pound Jimmy from 2010, right? But I couldn't have gotten here without the things that I learned along the way. Parkinson's and life in general has a way of throwing obstacles in the way, right? And sometimes these obstacles seem flat out impossible, okay? But I want to let you guys know that there's always a way around. You guys all remember these things, right? Right? So this is a phone book for some of the younger people in the crowd. I always joke that my kids calls this the Google and Yelp of the 1900s, right? So if I were to tell you that this is an obstacle that I'm going to put in your way, okay? And the only way to get through the obstacle was to work your way through this phone book to the other side to get it, okay? You would think that 975 pages, I counted, 975 pages would be impossible to get through. And I would agree with you. It's hard to get through all in one go. But remember these one mores, right? You guys thought I was going to rip through this, didn't you? What I want to say is that doing these one mores, we can just start with 1 at a time, right? And then the next day, we're going to do 2 pages or 3 pages. So just working through your 1 more, all right? Every day, trying to do a little bit more and trying to get through these quickly. Now, while I'm doing this, I want to share a story with you guys. Because I learned along my fitness journey, I learned along the way that what I see as fitness is different than what everyone else might see as fitness. For example, in 2015, I ran my fastest marathon ever. It was 3 hours and 40 minutes, and I was so proud of that time. But at that same marathon, at the charity event, afterwards, I met the winner of the race. And he ran the marathon in 2 hours and 12 minutes, okay? But he came up to me, he goes, "Hey, I heard you had a great time, congratulations." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And he's like, what was it? What was your time? And I feel silly, right? Come on, here's a guy that just ran an entire marathon in 2 hours and 12 minutes, and he's asking me what my time was. And I said, "Oh, well, it was 3 hours and 40 minutes. And he's like, "That's amazing." And then I looked in his eyes, and he was genuinely impressed. So I thought to myself, why would a person who literally runs twice as fast as I did be impressed? So I asked him, I was like, why is that impressive? He said, because you know what? Everybody has their own pace. Everybody's engine runs differently, right? I'm able to run a marathon, same distance that you covered, right, in 2 hours and 12 minutes. But if you ask me to continue my engine running for another hour and change, and you want me to run for 3 hours and 40 minutes at my pace, I couldn't do it. So, and he was right, because we're all going to be running at different paces, right? So he says, by that definition, you are more fit than I am, because you can continue running for 3 hours and 40 minutes, and I can't. So that changed the way that I thought about fitness forever. And that brings me to the end of really boring tearing this phone book in half. But just so you guys can see, I wanted to make sure everybody has a visual that doesn't matter the size of the obstacle that life throws at you. okay? There is a way to get through to the other side and achieve what you need to. You might just do it one page at a time, okay? Now, because you're training one page at a time, okay, maybe today your max is 1 page. Maybe tomorrow your max is 50 pages. Maybe when you get to the end of your max of all maxes, your max might only be 100 pages. But your max could be 300 pages. You never know until you keep going and going and going. And ultimately, you'll never really know how much your max is going to be and really where that limit is going to be. And maybe one day you can rip 975 pages all in one go. In case you guys are wondering, my new occupation is phone book recycling. So, you know what? What I learned that day was that he was right, is that everybody, once again, has their own pace and has their own thresholds. And that I realized at that moment that I should never compare myself to anybody else except myself, okay? Now, what I thought once was impossible, just by doing a little bit more each day, as you guys can see, it is possible to beat an obstacle like that. And whenever I think of the word impossible, I always try to find a different way of seeing if I can make things possible. And that's my new mantra, is that nothing is impossible as long as I believe that something can be done, okay? I'm the only one that have control over how much effort I put into it. So instead of being impossible, I look at ways of making possible, and that's what I'm thinking, is that I am possible, and that's how I'm gonna move forward with everything. Now remember these symptoms, right? Let's come back to these bad boys. I'm gonna move these. My wife, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what did I learn using fitness as it relates to these symptoms? My cognitive issues, okay? High intensity workouts just gets all these brain juices flowing. And I find that it actually helps me with whenever I have that brain fog, that sensation going, and I go in for a workout, high intensity workout, I come out feeling a lot much clearer, okay? So fitness, a high intensity workout helps with that. Insomnia, let's be honest. If I'm running 4 hours a day and working out for 4 hours a day, I'm gonna be pretty tired. That helps a little bit with insomnia. Constipation. Now, fitness isn't just about working out. A big part of fitness is diet and what you put into your body. So by eating better, it's actually gonna be helping me with my constipation issues. Dyskinesia. Now remember, this is a side effect of the medication that we take, right? So how can fitness help me with this? Well, because fitness is helping me manage my medication intake better. I'm taking less medication now today than I was 10 years ago. So that limits the effect of dyskinesia. All right. Now in the gym, I work with tremors. This is most people with Parkinson's, we experience what we call resting tremors. So if I'm at rest, tremors are generally worse than when they are active. So when I put a weight in my hand and I'm squeezing, I'm using my muscles, tremors doesn't go away, but it does subside quite a bit. So when I'm active and I'm actively engaging my muscles, that is helping my tremors. Posture issues. When I'm in the gym, I am making sure that my reps and that everything I'm doing in the gym is complete. I am finishing my motion. I am not cutting my movement short. Right? Doesn't matter if it's taking me longer than everybody else, I am making sure that I finish that motion. And that's helping me with my posture. Slowness of movement, bradykinesia. Now, when this happens, we all slow down. But what I learned in the gym is that, so I am more right side affected than I am left side affected. So when things like this happen, when I'm in the gym, I realize that if I just slow everything down to match the speed, I'm actually getting a pretty good workout because I have more time under tension, so to speak, for building strength and building muscle. And then not only that, I am learning how to slow down the faster side of my body to match the other side, giving me more balance, providing me a safer way of moving my body around. Let's see, we have gait issues. Once again, dealing with, in the gym, finishing your movement, really hitting that repetitive movement back and forth with many reps using low weights. For me, that has helped with my gaits because I'm actually building a lot of muscle memory, especially when it comes to walking out. All the running that I did also helps, but I know running sucks and nobody likes it. Rigidity. This one, when your muscles are just super tight, building your strength, especially counter muscles along rigidity, allows you to move around just a little bit better. And that is the same that goes with dystonia as well. Now, for those of you who don't know what dystonia is, just imagine a cramp that doesn't last for just 15, 20 seconds. In fact, it could last for hours. But whenever I'm experiencing dystonia, usually against my right side, and if you look at all of my running photos over the years, they all look like this, right? My shoulders, everything is locked up into my neck, but once again, if I'm building strength in my counter muscles, it gives me a better chance of giving myself a little relief, even if it's just a little bit at a time. So why am I putting these back in the bag? Why am I showing you guys all this? Well, I'm gonna put this right back on, and I wanna show you guys back to the burdens that we were talking about. Now, if you were carrying around all of this extra burden, okay, and many of us in this room are carrying around this extra burden, you can forget about going home, making dinner for the family, right? Because all you're thinking about is this extra burden you're carrying. You can forget about that report you gotta finish at work. You can forget about getting up and going out for the walk because this is a lot of weight to carry just for a walk, right? But what I'm telling you is, even with all of these symptoms, even with all this burden, I've found a way to work with them instead of against them. So that when I need to do things, I can still do them while carrying all my burdens. So if I need to go to the gym and they say, go give me some push-ups, I am going to do push-ups with this weight. If they say, give me clapping push-ups, I can do that as well. Now, one thing that I do want to caution everybody is, as strong as I've gotten myself, I also have to know my limitations, okay? I know that if I stand up too quickly right now, this little friend that is not part of this backpack called hypotension, I get those two mixed up all the time. If I stand up too quickly, there's a chance that I can just flop right back down. And then you guys will just stare at me for the next 10 minutes. Probably on my backside, which is not pretty. So I have to know my limitations. I do have to make sure that I stay down here, make sure that my blood is flowing completely before I even try to stand up. And then when I do, we'll all gasp and see if I make it. All right, we're good. Thank you. Now, to be honest, guys, the stronger that I get, my symptoms doesn't necessarily go away, right? All I'm doing is I'm preparing my body better to handle these symptoms as they continue on. There's only one problem. Parkinson's doesn't stop, right? And that means I can't stop. That means in order for me to stay ahead of this disease, I have to keep doing what some people might consider a crazy amount of fitness and training. But I found something that works for me, and that it's giving me the ability to combat Parkinson's up to this point. So I'm encouraging everybody to find what works for you. Now, it means that I also have to find motivation every day to get up and move, right? But you know what? Motivation is not enough. It's hard to keep finding motivation every single day, right? It's hard to get up, find reasons to get up and move, especially the past 2.5, 3 years. At some points, we weren't allowed to leave our house, right? Gyms were closed. access to equipment, to trainers, to doctors, face-to-face interactions with our friends and families were all limited. This is why we have to be more than just motivated, and we have to be disciplined. When I'm disciplined, I'm dedicated to my goals, right? I've realized that goals that are hard to achieve require a long-term commitment and consistency to achieve these goals. And I have planned to make I have to plan to make myself do all of these things so that I can achieve these goals, right? It has to be on the calendar. I have to go do it, even if I'm not feeling well, even if I'm not feeling it. I don't have to be at the same intensity that I did yesterday, right? Even though I'm trying to do more than yesterday, I don't have to be at the same intensity. I know that there are going to be days that are going to be tough, and it's okay, because I've got another day tomorrow to come back and try to make that fight again. But sometimes even motivation and discipline isn't enough. And when there's no outside force motivating me to move, I have to rely on my determination, right? When I'm just too damn tired, I've already told myself that quitting is the best option. I have to rely on determination. I'm determined to stay ahead of Parkinson's. I'm determined to give my body the best chance it has to help my body and my mind combat Parkinson's. I'm determined never to go down without a fight, right? You see, since 2012, I've used motivation, discipline, and determination to help me stay ahead. And it has not only allowed me to prepare my body and my mind, but it has also given me a platform to share that story. Now, why is that important? Remember that Runner's World magazine that I read in 2012? That came in full circle when Runner's World put up a story about me when I was preparing to run the 2015 New York City Marathon. And then also again, in 2019 in October, when I completed the Chicago Marathon while doing 351 burpees along the way. Now, for those of you wondering why 351, it's because I was stopping at every mile marker, and whatever that mile marker number is, that was the number of burpees that I was doing. So mile 1 was easy, no problem. But by mile 20 and 21 and 22, I'm doing 20 burpees in between each mile, 21 burpees in between each mile, and then of course 26 burpees right at the end near the finish line. Maybe someone else will read my story and get inspired to move. Maybe they will in turn motivate and move somebody else with their stories, right? I want you guys to remember, we all have our version of our story to tell. No matter how big or small you think your voice is, tell that story, okay? Because you'll never know who is listening and who will be touched by your story. Now, I can't stop what I do because, once again, Parkinson's doesn't stop. Medicine, exercise helps, but it never goes away. See, I might be able to compete in televised competitions, right, and run for miles, but these are things that I believe anybody can do if they're willing to put in the time to train and to work for it. But as we all know, simple things like buttoning our shirts, right? Just putting on these microphones at first because I had 2 buttons to remove and it took 5 minutes. But simple things like that. These are things that most people can do without training that I still have difficulty with. But I still hear things like, Jimmy, you don't look like a person with Parkinson's, right? And can you imagine how much faster or stronger you can be? And my response is always the same. You guys saw it in the video, is that I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing today if I was never diagnosed with Parkinson's. For the past 2.5 years, we all navigated through COVID, right? We all try to get back to normal, so to speak, right? But I ask, why do we want to get back to normal when we can all use this opportunity to get better than normal? Okay? It's that desire to be better than normal that stays with me when I train. Remember, I told you guys that I was falling a lot, right? And even though I was doing all these fitness, I was falling a lot, not just on Ninja Warrior, because everybody falls in that one. But because I was falling a lot, I was thinking to myself, what can I do from a fitness perspective that can help me with these falls, right? And if you think about it, that is the burpee, right? For those of you who don't know what a burpee is, it's very simple. I'm standing up, and I'm going right down to the ground. I'm getting down to the ground. I'm coming right back up, and then I'm making a small jump at the top. That is a burpee. So if you look at that, that is actually a controlled fall to the ground. And then I'm also working myself to get back up, safely building strength to get back up. Now, about 5 years ago, I started doing burpees because I was falling a lot, and I wanted to make sure that I was safe and that I was able to stop myself from hitting the ground hard. So I started to do just 5 burpees after the workout, and then it became 10, right? You guys know where this is going. It became 15 and 20. But what started out as a desire to learn a life-saving skill for me turned out I've gotten really good at burpees, and now it became an opportunity to break a world record. So I'm going to show you guys the entire attempt of my world record in its entirety in 1 minute. So this is a hand release burpee. So the hands must go out to the ground, past those orange lines on the side. And if you look at my feet, there's 2 orange lines. My feet have to come up to the one on top, and it has to go back down past the one by my feet, or else the rep doesn't count.
You got it. Go. Come on.
Jimmy. Got it. Stay with it. Keep going.
Come on, you got it.
At this point, I was contemplating my life choices.
Come on, Jimmy. You got it. Come on.
Got it. Come on, Jimmy. You got it.
Come on, Jimmy. 40.
Too fast. Go.
The record to beat at this point was 28. Thank you. Now you guys see the number 31 on the screen, but there was 1 rep that Guinness did not count because my feet did not pass that orange line. So, we all, once again, we all wanted to maintain as much of our normal as we can, right? But the path that we're all going to take is going to be a little bit different. So for me, the path is all the things that I do in the gym and in life, and everything that I do is designed around to teach me something. Is how can I move better? How can I live better despite living with Parkinson's, right? Now, 18 years ago, I chose to ignore my diagnosis, right? I know that was wrong. 10 years ago, I chose to be a better father, a better husband, and to be a better patient. 8 years ago, I chose to become a voice for the Parkinson's community. 5 years ago, I chose to have a better understanding of the way that my body moves under stressful conditions, which has allowed me to attempt this world record. But it also taught me something else. It also taught me that I can turn weaknesses into strengths. And then out of that situation, I can also gather new opportunities. Now, as you guys can see, with a burpee, there's always a push-up involved in a burpee, right? So all of a sudden, doing all these burpees, I've gotten really good at doing push-ups as well, which gave me the opportunity to break my second world record, which is a plyometric lateral push-up. And here it is. I'm gonna waste 1 more minute of your time by showing you guys the entire body, hands and feet have to go past that orange line. Funny story, when I went into this, the record to beat was only 31. But the day before I was to attempt it, someone else broke the record and set it at 39. So I went in there knowing, thinking I had to do 31. If at any point my hands or feet touch that orange tape, that rep does not count. And you see the judge behind me calling out a couple of reps that didn't count. And once again, guys, that was really painful. Now this year, I'm choosing to retire as an American Ninja Warrior so that I can preserve my body for the long haul of living with Parkinson's. Right? That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop using exercise as a treatment. It just means that I'm going to continue to choose different types of exercises. What's very important here is that everything that we do when living with the disease has to continuously evolve. We have to continuously make assessments of what our bodies are feeling and what we're doing so that we can do things to make any certain situations better But before I wrap up, guys, I want to leave you with this. Just remember that any given day you have the opportunities to make choices, right? Remember, I chose to do nothing in the beginning. What you choose can make a difference, okay? Big or small, it doesn't matter. Should I sit or should I get up and go for a walk? That's a choice you can make, right? Do I eat the cookie or this piece of, or some piece of fruit instead, right? Do I eat the strawberries inside the chocolate cup or do I eat the chocolate cup? Right? But I ask myself all the time, do I have one more rep? Or do I have one more step that I can give myself any given day? So for me, my choice is to create new challenges for myself despite living with Parkinson's. Hotel gyms, guys, sometimes it's limited, but there are things that we can do to challenge ourselves. So one last thing, guys, there is a movement with people with Parkinson's. And I invite all you guys to join that movement. And all you have to do to join that movement is to move. Thank you guys very much for your time. Thank you. Now, I think we have some time for questions. Yes? Okay. So if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Did you make any changes in nutrition or your diet?
Yes, and that's one thing that I didn't cover in my talk, but that's a very important question. Yes. So I used actually 12 years ago, 13 years ago now, I used to help with the family restaurant, and we would eat whatever, right, in that business. But ever since I started my fitness journey, I realized that diet and nutrition is just as important. Okay, in fact, maybe a little bit more important. For me, the changes that I made is that I'm eating clean. Okay, I'm avoiding as much processed foods as I can, but at the same time, I'm also telling myself that we're trying to enjoy life. Okay, I love ice cream. I can't give that up, right? But if I allow myself, portions of that so that I don't crave it and I don't hoard it when I actually get it, right? But just staying clean overall. I've tried it all, guys, over the years. I've tried keto, I've tried Mediterranean, I've tried, all these different things. One thing that's very important one thing that has worked for me is be able to keep all this weight off for more than 10 years is that whatever you decide to do with your diet, number one, it has to be clean, right? Avoid processed foods, okay? Number two, it has to be sustainable. It has to be something that you can do day in and day out. Because if it becomes hard to sustain, you're not gonna do it. I went on keto for 8 months. It was the roughest 8 months for my family, right? Because I was eating bacon every day, right? It was great for me, but it wasn't great for my family. So make sure that it is sustainable for you and your situation, okay? Did I answer your question? Great. Anybody else? Remember, I'm an open book, so you guys can ask whatever.
I'd like to know how you can, kind of limit yourself when you're going too far. And what are the you probably helped him a little bit with that, but it seems to be once you go, if you're there, and you have blindfolds wherever, and that's good. But how do you peak, to be able to help everybody that needs to be affected?
And so you're right. She is my limiter in a lot of things. She always looks at me and says, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And but no, that's a very fair question because a lot of people who see me today, they see the things that I do either on social media, on TV, and a lot of these things are pretty outrageous. These are things that people without Parkinson's can't do, right? But for me, remember, I've trained myself over the last 10 years to get to this point. But what's important is how I hope I am able to share my experiences is that I've gone through all of the different stages of getting to this point that everyone is going to experience. I started in the beginning where I was just walking to the end of my driveway with a cane, right? That's where I started. And then from there, I did more and more. I was 240 pounds and I lost a lot of weight, so I have that experience as well. And then now, it's just like with anybody else who was going through a weight loss journey, they have those yo-yo sessions of gaining weight and losing them again. Now I'm able to maintain my weight, so I've also learned from that experience. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is that I've been through all the different stages of fitness to get to where I am. And so when other people come to me, I can share that experience with them to help them get to wherever they are. I can see them, and with a small assessment, I can realize exactly what stage they're at in relation to where I was either 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, or just last month, right? So then I can hopefully provide as much of a relevant experience as I can to them.
Thank you.
Of course. Yes, sir.
Jimmy, how many hours a week do you spend out working out, and then how much rest do you get in between, and how much sleep do you get?
Very good question, because active recovery or resting is very important. As far as working out concerned, when I'm training for something like a marathon or American Ninja Warrior or bike rides or whatever, it usually goes into the 4 to 5 hours a day. It is my full-time job. But when I'm maintaining fitness, it's usually about 2 to 3 hours. And yes, that's a lot, right? And I get it. Not a lot of people they have the time to be able to do that. But it's also very important that people know that when I do rest, I have to rest also every day. Just almost as hard as I work out, I have to have that type of rest as well. My sleep still isn't great, I'll be honest with that. I'm probably averaging 4 to 5 hours a night of sleep. I'm up at 5 in the morning and I'm working out. I'm using that time to go work out and things like that. But then in the afternoons, I think many of us are familiar with that afternoon Parkinson's PD crash that happens. But when it does happen, I don't fight it. I allow myself and allow my body to recover. And then going back to nutrition, right? Food is also a big part of recovery as well. Eating the right foods to make sure that your body can repair itself is very important. Did that answer your question?
Well, pretty much.
Okay. Did you have a follow-up? I don't want to...
Well, I'm also, I noticed you played golf when you were young. Can you still play golf?
I can still swing the club, but I don't play for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was one of the mistakes that I ever made. When I was told that I was diagnosed, when I was told, Jimmy, you have Parkinson's, immediately my mind went to, I got to stop doing this. I got to stop doing that. And I got to stop doing this. And I stopped playing golf. So I regret that decision. But I was playing at such a high level. I was 2 strokes away from the Western Open qualifying at that time, that as the disease progressed, my short game touch just wasn't there. And the game is not fun because I'm thinking I can play at a level that is unrealistic. So instead of all that frustration, I save it and I don't even bother with it. But if I go to the driving range, I can still hit the ball. But if you ask me to putt, forget it. Yes?
Thank you for inspiring us. Along your journey, who inspired you?
So first of all, thank you, Brian. He's probably the biggest inspiration in this community here, right? So big. Really, right at the beginning, it was my family, and it still is. Big part of what I do is for my family. I want to be there to watch my daughter play softball. I want to be there to watch my son, achieve his dreams of becoming a pilot, so he can fly me everywhere. Right? I want to be there when my wife, she has agreed that we can renew our vows in Las Vegas in front of Elvis. but yeah, that's my biggest inspiration is really my family. But from a Parkinson's perspective, there have been many individuals. Michael J. Fox himself has been a great mentor to me, but I've also met other people in the Parkinson's community. Remember that gentleman that I saw, that I read in the Runner's World magazine? His name is Alex Flynn. Unfortunately, for those of you who may know, he unfortunately passed away just a few months ago trying to climb Everest. Okay, but yeah, he was one of my first inspirations that got me running. But along the way, I've met guys like Bill Bucklew and yourself, Brian, and just everybody in the Parkinson's community has really provided me a drive to keep going. And each one of you here, really, just to know that if there's a way that I can touch you guys, and if I'm doing something that has helped you today, then that inspires me to keep going, because I know maybe I can help somebody else. So, thank you.
Can you describe the evolution from your own survival to helping other people and making that transition where you're more community-minded than yourself?
Yeah, it's everything that I did was very selfish. It all started as all selfish intentions, right? What can I do to make myself better? What am I going to do so that I don't have to live such a horrible life that I've already envisioned that I might live, right? So everything that I was doing was very selfishly motivated. It was for me. But somewhere along the way, when I had to fundraise that very first time, right, I put my story out. And then I saw that the amount of support that I was getting in return, not just from family, but from friends, right? We all know social media reaches far and wide. I have people, long lost friends that I graduated with high school 30 years ago are now reaching back to me and says, hey, Jimmy, you're inspiring me to do X, Y, and Z. And strangers from all over the world are telling me. So, from that, I realized that this is really more than just about me. And if I can help somebody else, if I can help one more person achieve anything, near or anything that resembles what I can do, that'd be great. And then, you know what? Actually, you reminded me, when you guys are watching American Ninja Warrior for me this year, keep an eye out for a gentleman named Brian Hill. He also has Parkinson's. And he is my protege that I got on the show this year. So, but yeah, I mean, it started really very, very selfish intentions. But to be honest, it's still there because, like I said, I look to you guys also in return for that motivation and that inspiration to keep going. I would take one more question. Yeah.
All right. Again, thank you very much, Jimmy.
Yes.
Awesome. Two questions.
I said one more. I'm just kidding. No, 2 questions. Go ahead.
Do you limit your protein?
Good question. I don't limit my protein, but I do space it out from the time I need to take my medication. So I never take protein within plus or minus 45 minutes of when I have to take my medication. Okay, so there's a time gap.
And the second one, about where are you with yoga? Has that been part of your routine?
She's laughing over here, and they're laughing over here because we just had this conversation. No, but yoga is great. I always encourage people to try new things and to give it a chance, right? I did. I tried yoga and I gave it a chance. I went to multiple sessions. I think for me is I had the wrong instructor, and it really turned me off. But it wasn't for me. But I'm always open to going back and trying again because this fine group over here on table 5 has told me that you have the wrong instructor and you have to try a different type of yoga. So I will try it. But there's also other ways of relaxation techniques. For me, running is a relaxation technique for me because I'm able to just space out and just kind of do something repetitive over and over again. But thank you. All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. All right.